In this video, we're going to go over how to draw paper curls. They're a great way to practice getting used to complex forms, things like curly hair or the curves that you get in fabrics or things like that. So to do paper curls, what you're going to want to do is you're going to start by cutting yourself a few strips. Okay. My next step is I need to curl the paper. Now to curl the paper is the same as when you curl ribbons. If you've ever done that for a present. So what you're going to do is you're going to splay the scissors completely wide open. You're going to place the paper on top of one of the blades and your thumb against it, and then you are going to pull the paper. Okay, you might have to do it a couple of times, but by doing this, you're able to create a little curl in the paper. I've made some paper curls. I'm going to place them in front of me so that I have sort of still objects to draw. Now I might kind of stretch some of these out just to kind of control the shape a little bit of my paper curl. So it's not too tight, it's got a little bit of variety in it. And it's really important to change the angles around a bit, because that's going to help challenge you a little bit in your drawing. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be starting by drawing using a light pencil. I'm going to use a 2H, so just to lightly block in the objects. And the best way to do this is to not try to draw the entire loop, which is the same problem you would have when drawing curly hair, for example. Instead, what you want to do is you want to draw the shapes. So I want to focus by drawing the square, the rectangle, and the other rectangle there, and then I can worry about connecting them. So I'm going to start by drawing those shapes. So a rough square, a rectangle, give or take, and another rectangle-ish shape. And that's going to give you the basic structure of what I'm looking at in this curl. But now what I want to do is I want to connect the different sides together. So for example, I can see that on this side it comes down and then goes across, and that gives me that edge on the curl. You can also see that this one, the curl kind of stops short and goes long on one side, and the curve is quite extreme so that I can really see what's going on inside. So I want to give myself that space and make sure I keep my curves parallel from one side to the other. Okay. And now I notice that I've actually put this one too close. I don't have enough space to do the curl coming out, because that curl would kind of come this way. So I need to shift it over a little bit. Actually quite a lot. It's about a centimeter that I'm shifting it. And then I'm going to be able to finish that curve and let that come down and make that shape. Okay, so now that I have the curves blocked in, I can go ahead and I can erase the unnecessary lines. Alright, now usually I would do this with a kneadable eraser, but I actually forgot to pull one out just now. I'm just going to erase the major lines to start, and that gives me my structure. Okay, so I'm going to start blocking in my midtones. My midtones are sort of the light gray sections, not the areas that are the darkest, but just the light ones. I'm going to use hatching lines for this particular drawing, even though the texture of the paper is quite smooth. I'm just going to go ahead and use hatching lines just for personal choice. Now I want to make sure that my lines always follow the same curve of the ribbon or the paper curl, because that's going to help reinforce the effect of the object being round. So I want to keep that going the same throughout. Okay, now it's also really important to pay attention to the shadows that fall on the table. So once again, I'm just going to plan those out with sort of half-tone shades. I'm not going to get those too dark to start. And again, I'm still using hatching marks. Okay, so now that I've blocked in roughly where all my midtones are, and I can see the highlights are sticking out in the other areas. Oh, missed one right there. I can go ahead and start to block in my darker shadows. So for this one, I'm going to be using a 4B pencil to get myself to the deeper shadows. Now you can see how my shadows kind of blend in together just here. So I want to start to define that more specifically. The shadow that falls cast onto the surface of the table is darker than the one that is inside the paper. Now I'm using less of hatching marks on the table because I want the surfaces to be different of the paper and the table that it's on, just to help define the form more clearly. So I'm just using a basic smudging technique, which works really well seeing as I'm using a woodless pencil, and the two kind of go together very well. Okay, so by doing that, I can create a paper curl. Now this is, as I said, a structure you can use for many complex things, but most frequently it's a great connection for doing to curly hair. But anything where you have an inside and an outside, it's really helpful to keep in mind paper curls because it helps you to see one section, not get confused by all the twists and turns.